Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the show. Happy St. Patrick's Day today. And I am your host, Stuart Davis. I am a deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. I'm not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. I'm not a pastor, I'm not a biblical scholar, and I haven't been to seminary. What I'm here to do is talk about Christian beliefs, Christian influences, how the world around us affects Christians, basically getting thoughts and impressions, a glimpse through the eyes of a what I consider to be a normal everyday Christian. I'm here to give you some sort of exposure. If you're interested in starting a relationship with Christ, if you're somebody who's curious about there being more to the world than just your existence and just your time here, then welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Please, by all means, ask questions. Consume as much of what I have to offer as you can, and make make your conclusions from there. Hopefully, it becomes a very fruitful and spiritual path to Christ for you. Um, I do not have any. I do not belong to any denomination or subscribe to any particular doctrine. I am just living in the Word, trying to get through, as much of the Bible and getting a better understanding of Christianity as a whole. What I can do to better my life and better the life of those around me, and through as an extension, you guys who view in and talk and view what I have to say and consume what content I have to share with you. Uh, one of the one of the one of the parts of that I've tried to do, and I've tried to get started, is bringing people on from different denominations um, to discuss um, basically their brand. Now, that's I'm going to be a bit of a gatekeeper about it. There are certain denominations I will not be bringing on here because I do not believe that they are well founded in Christianity in the book, and there are some perspectives that I will not bring on here. I'm not going to bring in on anybody who is Mormon. I will not be bringing on any Jehovah's Witness. Probably not any Seventh Day Adventists. I will be not be bringing on anybody who has a modernistic spin on Christianity. No, this is what I believe: that God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit are three iterations of God, right? The Trinity, as we understand it. Believe that God created the universe, created us in His image, established a covenant with us, with the Israelites, and then sent Jesus Christ, His Son, as part of that Trinity, down to earth to fulfill the prophecies He had set forth. He lived a perfect life among us as a man, was crucified for our sins, and was resurrected 3 days later. And that since then, we have been given the gift of salvation across the board, just for Jews and Gentiles alike. That is the belief point of this show, and that is in a very literal sense. The things that I said are very literal. Now, some things you might take metaphorically, if you're an old Earth creationist, or some of the other things, but those are the unchanging tenets, right? And so from there, we are going to get into things tonight. St. Patrick's Day, right? I've been seeing a lot of stuff on going around on social media about St. Patrick. I've been hearing that we should be wearing orange instead, some sort of Protestant thing. I am a Protestant. I'm non-denominational Protestant, just for your edification. We should be wearing orange, and that St. Patrick was an Italian Protestant and not an Irish Catholic. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. Traditionally wore green. Got green on tonight. Been eyeballing this. Uh, I like to make fun of my Irish brethren. There's a lot of good Irish jokes out there. Most of them would probably get me in trouble on here. But jokes, when you can make them and understand the other person can laugh about it, are always great. Just know that it's not coming from a place of malice or condescension. It's only in good fun. So drink up, be merry, be safe. That's the biggest thing. This is one of those. This is one of those nights. One of those nights that you gotta be. You gotta be wary. You gotta be wary. You gotta watch yourself and watch others around you. Just like New Year's, 4th of July, some of those other holidays where we can get a little stupid. Don't get stupid. Be smart. Have a good time. Be responsible. That's what that's what God expects of us as adults, right? As people. He gave us a brain. So do that. But either way, we're celebrating St. Patrick's Day today, and that's a good thing. We're also reading out of Numbers tonight, and part of that is actually not what my intention was tonight. I did it out of just pure habit because we've been in the book so much. Um, but actually, a story was written today and posted on getreligion.org by Terry Mattingly. Now you've seen me do a read through of a Terry Mattingly piece before. I'm going to do this again Monday probably. I'm probably not streaming tomorrow night, but Monday will be the next time I stream since I wasn't prepared. I didn't really prepare. I had everything set up in Rumble. I didn't want to tear it down, so I figured we'll just do the reading through the here today, and we'll do the cover the Mattingly piece on Monday. It's concerning the breakup of the Methodist Church, and I would actually like to get Terry Mattingly, who I've been critical of in the past, get Terry Mattingly on to talk more about it, or at least get some more information from him, because he has been following the issues surrounding the Methodist Church. And by issues, we're talking about internal strife surrounding the Methodist Church for decades now. This has been, the Methodists have been dealing with their issues with modernization for maybe as long as the Episcopalians, or maybe theirs started, not long before the Episcopalians started splitting up. And so, and the Methodists, while you might have heard me and Eric talking about them splitting up. They haven't actually done it yet, but they are very headstrong about doing it. It does seem to me that there are different camps. Some are Christian, some I believe are not so Christian, and so I think the best path forward for the traditional Methodists who establish their law in the Word. It's not their law; it's God's law for us. It's probably best that they split from those other churches that are not recognizing God's law. And that's the big problem, right? This is the big problem. This is why you will see me not have modernizers on. That's not what is Christian. You try to modernize the word, you are in effect erasing Christ and erasing God out of the religion, and all you have left is man's expectation for oneself. That's not it. Man didn't put man here. God did. So with that said, we're going to go into that piece. The one thing that the piece, and I had reached out to him when I commented on his post on Twitter. I noticed that, look, it's the article is very technical in nature. The article is very technical in nature, and its focuses on same-sex marriage when there is, and while that's an aspect, I think we cover that a little bit more than we need to. I think it's worth bringing up same-sex marriages, homosexuality in the priesthood, or preachers or whatever. That's worth comment on, but we've done a lot of that, and there's more aspects to modernization than just that, right? And so I feel like we beat a dead horse sometimes with that, but it is one of the that's one of the focuses of internal debate and strife within the church right now, and within Christians, is homosexuality, transgenderism, and all the things that kind of go along with that. And you can also put in critical race theory and some other beliefs in there. That's all part of a bigger problem. All part of a bigger problem on here. And it's not that, and this is my take. And I won't shy away from it. Homosexuality is a sin, and I do not recognize same-sex marriage, but it is what it is. That's not to say that a person is completely condemned because they act in that lifestyle. And that is not to say that those people are to be shunned and it's treated in any way. It is our duty to treat them as we would treat ourselves, who are also sinners, but also do what we can to be good people to them and show them, and hopefully they will understand that the actions that they're taking is sinful, is in contradiction to God's rules, God's intent for what we were supposed to do with ourselves, and take it from there. Take it from there. But that's not to unperson people because of a sin. Because if we're going to unperson people for their sin, we might as well do the same thing to ourselves. But the difference is you had the mission is getting them to um, understand, because that's a path forward. You don't bar people out of your church. You don't bar people out of your congregation, as long as it's not disruptive. We're talking about people who are respectfully showing up, who are genuinely seeking out the word. Give them the word. It's up to them at that point to take it or leave it. Now, with that said, I won't discuss the Mattingly piece anymore until Monday, and we will cover it then. And then sometime next week, I did get a brief response from the gentleman who did the Old Testament piece that I really want to share with you guys. I thought it was a really good piece. Trying to get him on, and we'll see if we can make that happen. And then we still need to get Dr. Von Mancha on to finish his discussions about epigenetics. He's going to do a little bit longer stream with us, and hopefully we'll have a better intro instead of him boomering up the intro for that last time. So with that said, we will continue on with Numbers tonight, and Numbers tonight is going to be talking all about Balaam. I mean, if you think so, Vic, Tory, is it Vic? I mean, I know it's supposed to be victory, but it's just kind of, yeah. I mean, you can say "Hail Satan," but I mean that's kind of what we do when we do sin, but doesn't doesn't end for the doesn't end well for people. I mean, hey, people said "Hail Hitler" too, and that didn't that didn't that didn't end well for them either. I mean, imagine that things will be very similar to the Nuremberg trials at Judgment, maybe a little bit more so than that, when they say, "Well, I was just following what my heart desires." Yeah, well, the heart is is of all things most deceitful, and that is where Satan will drive that wedge in. So, I mean, if that's your feeling, sorry about that. You're not going to get that here. Now, talk more about things. Getting back to our regularly scheduled reading. Boom. So Balaam, when we haven't heard anything about this guy before in the Bible up to this point, but we're going to get like several chapters full of these folks, and it's going to be very interesting to. What is this? I'm having some connectivity issues right now. Hopefully, I'm still on. Anyway, let's take a quick glimpse. Still on. Mm. Looks like looks like let's see if I can go back here. Sorry for the dead air, folks. Trying to yeah, no, Balaam was the dude with the donkey. We're not going to get to the donkey tonight. Not going to get to the donkey tonight. We're going to get all the parts up to that because I mean these chapters are long. These chapters are long, and no, this isn't Numbers like we have been going through, where it's decidedly dry and difficult to get any type of discussion in on it. Um, it's still not that great. So it looks like my connectivity issues have improved. So we'll go from there. All right, so starting with Numbers chapter 22, and I'm using Bible Gateway. What I've said before, periodically I'll go through this. Bible Gateway, it's better than the app that you're going to find. Just go through it. Even if you're using a cell phone, it's just easier. They've made it really nice. You can navigate it very well. There's resources to the side if you feel like you want to go to them, and there's also all the translations. Just very easy. Like I said, very easy to navigate. I use it all the time. Use it when I'm on my smartphone. Use it when I'm on here, and so I recommend it. And I've got the links down in the description, and I changed them to the different chapters as we move to the different chapters. So we're still got a fair ways to go in Numbers, and we still got a fair amount of ground to cover because Deuteronomy is going to be a little bit different. That's the closing of the Pentateuch, and it's just a little bit different slant on things, or a little bit different style, I guess. But it's Moses writing. He's just, I don't know, maybe just kind of putting this all together at the end. So, chapter 22. Then the Israelites traveled to the plains of Moab and camped along the Jordan across from the Jericho. Now, what we saw in the earlier chapters is Israel is wandering through the wilderness right now. They've already been told by God that you're going to be wandering for 40 years. You're not going to be able to see it. Your kids will be able to, but because you guys acted incredibly stupidly, you're not going to be able to see it. You can see it. And then Moses did his little screw up, what we just discussed last night. So he's basically, like I said, he got his golden ticket. I think it's in chapter 25, Victory. You might be right, though. I didn't see it. I was glancing through it. You might be right. I mean, we're talking about it, but I didn't see... if it's in there, we're talking about tonight. So anyway, but Moses screwed up, so he lost his ticket into the promised land. He's going to be able to watch these people that he's led miserably through the wasteland. I'm not saying he did a miserable job. No, they caused him constant misery with all the griping and all the sin and all the just absolute disaster of behavior that we've seen from them. He has been miserable to the point where he actually asked God, if you love me, just kill me. Don't make me lead these people anymore. I don't want to do it. They're too much. Can't even. So he's not going to be able to get in. Miriam, his sister, dies at the beginning. Aaron, he dies at the end of chapter 20. Aaron dies, and so now it's basically just Moses and our boy Joshua and Caleb, but we don't cover Caleb all that much. Joshua sticks around for a little bit. So we've covered that. So they've been trudging through the wilderness. They've come across a couple of Canaanite tribes. Each time they crossed the Edomites. Edomites said, "Nope, don't come out here. We don't really want anything to do with you. We don't want you trespassing on our land." Israelites say, "Hey, we just want to use the road. We just want to get through." Edomites said, "Nope, you don't have right of way." And there's no eminent domain here. And God didn't eminent domain it. So they went around and they met a couple of other Canaanite tribes, and those were promptly extinguished when they joined the Israelites in battle. Now Balak, son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites, which we just were talking about last night. And Moab was terrified because there were so many people. Indeed, Moab was filled with dread because of the Israelites. Now remember, when they left Egypt, there was probably a million and so Israelites just wandering through there, because when we do the census and we find out that there's like 600 men of fighting age, that's how we know that there's probably a lot more of them. The Moabites said to the elders of Midian, this horde is going to lick up everything around us as an ox licks up the grass on the field. And it's a very interesting way to put it, because it kind of makes you almost think of the Israelites as the hordes of Genghis Khan, because, I mean, they're not quite as established in their military victories as Genghis Khan was when he was terrorizing the steppes and China and most of the Russian area, but they have laid some smackdown on some people when they've come across them. So King Balak, son of Zippor, who was king of Moab at the time, sent messengers to summon Balaam, son of Beor, who was at Pethor near the Euphrates River in his native land. Balak said, "A people has come out of Egypt. They cover the face of the land and have settled next to me. Now come and put a curse on these people, because they are too powerful for me. Perhaps then I will be able to defeat them and drive them out of the land. For I know that whoever you bless is blessed, and whoever you curse is cursed." The elders of Moab and Midian left, taking with them the fee for divination. When they came to Balaam, they told him what Balak had said. "Spend the night here," Balaam said to them, "and I will report back to you with the answer the Lord gives me." So the Moabite officials stayed with him. God came to Balaam and asked, "Who are these men with you?" Balaam said to God, "Balak, son of Zippor, king of Moab, sent me this message. A people that has come out of Egypt covers the face of the land. Now come and put a curse on them for me. Perhaps then I will be able to fight them and drive them away." But God said to Balaam, "Do not go with them. You must not put a curse on those people, because they are blessed." God blessing trumps Balaam's best blessing. And that's probably the most obvious statement I'll make. But that's what they say. So they're going to somebody Balaam. And I don't know much about Balaam outside of what's in the Bible. I'm going to try to get Eric on here, possibly, or somebody else who can really give us some insight and see if there's any other context to which Balaam's discussed. He doesn't meet a good end in the Bible, because he kind of gets a little stupid at the end. But we don't really know much about him other than, look, he's talking to God. Balaam. I think I like Balaam better, though. Just sounds better. Balaam. But we see him here. He's obviously not part of the Israelites. He's been out here just chilling wherever he's been at, and doing his thing. And part of that is part of what he's doing is putting blessing and cursing. And so he does have some sort of communication with God, as we see here. But why? Where does that communication come from? And this is kind of one of those loose ends in the Bible that I'd love to have, kind of do that Tolkien, side branch out. Where does what is Balaam's story? Where does he come from? What's his background? What's going on? Because he's not with the Israelites, and you would assume that he's not part of the lineage of Jacob in any way. But maybe he is. And maybe he escaped from Egypt, or maybe he had some family that escaped from Egypt. I don't know. But again, he's in here talking to God. The king of Moab comes to him. He goes, "All right." And so he goes to God. God goes, "Don't do that, and don't go with him." So the next morning, Balaam got up and said to Balak's officials, "Go back to your own country, for the Lord has refused to let me go with you." So the Moabite officials returned to Balak and said, "Balaam refused to come with us." Then Balak sent other officials, more numerous and more distinguished than the first. I'll send you a more impressive envoy. They came to Balaam and said, "This is what Balak, son of Zippor, says. Do not let anything Do not let anything keep you from coming to me, because I will reward you handsomely and do whatever you say. Come and put a curse on these people for me. But Balaam answered them, even if Balak gave me all the silver and gold in his palace, I could not do anything great or small or to go beyond the command of the Lord my God. There we go. So notice that point. The command of the Lord my God. So he's talking right here, understanding that not just that God exists and he's great and powerful being, but it's his Lord. So that's a very interesting piece there. Now spend the night here so that I can find out what else the Lord will tell me. That night, God came to Balaam and said, since these men have come to summon you, go with them, but do only what I tell you. And there it is, Balaam's donkey. I'm sorry, Victory. You're right. I don't know how I missed scrolling down here, but when I was scanning through there, I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe it's in 25. So yeah. So Balak sends more emissaries and more envoys out there that are more important, more prestigious, or whatever, to say, hey, whatever it is, it's keeping you from coming to me. Don't let it keep you from coming to me. And to which he said, he goes, correctly, can't go. God sent me not to, but if you stay tonight, I'll try to get a message. Maybe he can tell you something, right? And so at that point, he goes to God and says, hey, what's going on? God said, now you can go. Now you can do it, but only do exactly what I tell you to do. The interesting thing here is that, outside of Moses, especially now, and Joshua, and probably Caleb, outside of those, we don't know if any of those Israelites would have been as astute in their behavior and their faith to God. It might have been like, oh, what? You want me to come with you? Well, you're a king. You're really important. I'll just go. I mean, whatever. And I'll go put this curse on these people. I won't give it a second thought. I won't try to commune with God since I have this power. They'd probably just do it. Balaam seems like he's got a leg up on the Israelites. All right, so Balaam's donkey. So this is a popular one for us to teach in Sunday school, and for you to always go back and kind of read, because it is kind of, I always think of Eddie Murphy's character in Shrek, the talking donkey. I always kind of, now that I was a kid. Did you know that there is also a 6 and a 7 book of Moses? I do not doubt that Moses wrote more, probably, or I would not doubt there's more writings out of Moses. They are not part of the Bible, so they're not being discussed in this particular, or they're not being read through in this particular context. If it's not canon, it's not, or it's not established canon. It's not something that we're considering to be taken at 100% face value. We do, in this case, go with this. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So ever since I saw Shrek, now when I read Balaam's the account of Balaam's donkey, it's it's always with Eddie Murphy's voice, which I will not attempt to do here because I'm not that good at. I'm not in good impressions for Eddie Murphy, but it's funny in my head at least. So Balaam's donkey. So Balaam got up in the morning, saddled his donkey, and went with the Moabite officials. But God was very angry when he went, and the angel of the Lord stood in the road to oppose him. All right, so hey, go with them, but do only what I tell you. So I feel like there's a little bit more context here over what he told him, because he didn't go exactly when or exactly how God told him to go. He didn't confer with him. He goes, okay, I'm supposed to go with them. Is there anything I need to know? So it's like Star Wars Legends and canon. I mean, I don't follow the deep lore of Star Wars. I would be more like Warhammer 40K. But but way more organized, because the amount of retconning that Games Workshop does with the amount of retconning Games Workshop does with with Warhammer canon. There's jokes to be made about the Catholics, but I'm going to wait until I get my Catholic friend on here to make those jokes. That way he can respond to what I have to say. Yeah. Yeah, I guess corn out of all of them. I don't I love the pre-heresy and the heresy era books, or the early horse heresy novels. They're great. That's what I played. I always knew about Warhammer because they had the turn-based computer games for the longest time with CD-ROM back when I was a kid. I had a friend who had kind of gotten into it, but then his parents realized how expensive it was, so he quickly was out of it. But we knew that it was like a tabletop game and it was very cool. We were always very interested. But I never liked turn-based games. It wasn't really my thing. But when Dawn of War came out, it's a real-time strategy game, and I was playing Call of Company Heroes. It was awesome. And so same guys made it, loved it to death. Started reading the books more, getting into the lore. It's very well done. And I don't know. I haven't been able to read, since having kids. I haven't been able to read as much of it as I've wanted to. But I don't know how I feel about the Primaris Marines. I don't necessarily like where we're going with it, but I haven't been able to keep up, so I can't really give an intelligent assessment of it. But for 40K, that's I'm mostly a Space Wolves fan. And I think if I was going to be if I was going to pick a Chaos faction, it would be Thousand Suns, because they're all emo, and I kind of feel bad for Magnus a bit because he's a total screw up. He tries to be, a lot of it's from his own hubris. But it's relatable in that case, because we all sometimes, if we're good at something, we think that we're the greatest at it, or we're in control of something, what we do, when we realize we don't really have as much control over what goes on around us as maybe we think we do. And that was his big folly. And and what a way he did it too, like haplessly falling into really causing all the problems that happen. You could say he ends up causing more problems than even Horus does. So hang on, I've been scrolling and screwing around while my ADHD has let me down a tangent, which happens. All right, let's see. All right, so the angel of the Lord stood in the road to oppose him. Balaam was riding on his donkey, and his 2 servants were with him. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand, it turned off the road into a field. Balaam beat it to get it back on the road. So Balaam doesn't see it at the time, but the donkey does. And so he turns off. So Balaam starts beating the donkey. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path throughout the vineyards with walls on both sides. So when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it pressed close to the wall, crushing Balaam's foot against it, which probably hurt. If you've ever been riding a bicycle and hit a wall, a piece of landscaping wall, besides, it hurts. He probably lashed out. He beat the donkey again. Then the angel of the Lord moved on ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no room to turn either. Get to that in a second. No room to turn either to the left or the right. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it lay down under Balaam, and he was angry and beat it with his staff. Look, dude, this is clearly not, the beating is clearly not working. Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and it said to Balaam, "What have I done to you to make you beat me these 3 times?" Yeah, that probably Balaam answers the donkey. He's not sitting there dumbstruck. He said, "You've made a fool of me. If only I had a sword in my hand, I would kill you right now." Okay, well, that's how you respond to it. I mean, I try to put myself in this position. I'm probably mad. I've probably hit the donkey as well, because especially with the ankle part, I'm probably pretty angry. But at the same time, it's like, okay, something's going on. So obviously this isn't, so that by the 3rd time, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm getting down, trying to find out, look, there's something wrong with his foot. What's going on? Why is he acting so? Has he got like a head injury? Did he get concussed? You're trying to figure out these things. And now that the donkey is talking, now you're talking about killing him. Now maybe you can worry that the donkey is possessed, but he's more worried about what's been hurt to his pride. You made a fool of me. So I'm kind of wondering, I was like, when all this is going on, where are Moab's emissaries? Are they on up ahead? Are they behind? Is he meeting them someplace? What's going on? The donkey said to Balaam, I am not your own donkey. Or I'm sorry, am I not your own donkey? That makes more sense. Am I not your own donkey, which you have always ridden to this day? Have I been in the habit of doing this to you? No, he said. Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with his sword drawn. So he bowed down low and fell face down. Interesting tidbit you can get here. Am I not your own donkey, which you have always ridden to this day? Have I been in the habit of doing this to you? No. Very, very similar to what we see with the Israelites. God is continually creating these miracles and bestowing these blessings on the Israelites, and they continue to doubt him. The same thing with the donkey. Over and over and over again, the donkey's trying to avoid the angel of the Lord, who's sitting there with a sword in his hand. He doesn't put his faith in him. Victory, I don't know what you mean, what you would classify as a normal church, because if you talk to different people, they have a very different idea about what a quote unquote normal church is. I go in what you would consider a mainstream style church, right? We have building, sanctuary, and we do Sunday school and everything. I'm a deacon at that church, we have Sunday services. We have outreach. We have the Wednesday night thing. We're non-denominational Protestants. And what you'll find in the Richmond area, in more of the suburbs in Richmond and rural communities. I don't know how this works in other states and other areas, but in Richmond, Virginia, once you get out of the city, you find a lot of non-denominational churches. And I know a lot of other Protestants, especially the ones that once you get closer to the Lutheran side of Protestant denominations, they basically say, oh, okay, well, they're either evangelicals or they're Baptists, which is a fair comment, because a lot of them are. But we do kind of exist. A lot of non-denominational churches like mine are kind of it's somewhere in between that further end. We're not charismatics. That's weird. We're not quite evangelicals, because they got kind of their own thing going on, and but we're not quite Baptists, and we're not accountable to anybody but ourselves. So, in the structure that we have at our church, it's an elder-run church. So the elders are selected by the congregation, and there was bylaws. Legislature of what? Or is it association? I mean, in a legal sense, if you're talking about before the state or the feds, I don't know. I'm not on the legal side of that. We don't belong to a larger church body like the Lutheran Church or the Methodists or the Southern Baptist Convention, stuff like that. We don't have a governing body, so to speak. We are only answerable to ourselves and God, right? So the congregation picks the elders. We have bylaws and everything in place for, obviously if there's issues with the elders or whatnot. The elders select the preacher, or basically the decider of the preacher. The preacher has a seat at the elder as an elder, or as a voting member of that elder committee. And then from there, you've got the deacons and the different ancillary administrative functions, like your worship leader, your youth minister, your kids minister, whatever. They tell you something about leadership in your community that can be dangerous. I mean, I don't know what you mean about, or what would. I'm missing the context of what you're saying, Victory. There, they tell you something about leadership in your community that can be dangerous. I mean, every when you're dealing with faith, I mean, everything can be dangerous, depending on what you're doing, right, and how you act about it. But you know, I don't know who they is. I don't know who you're referencing about they, and I don't know. From there, I'm missing what I'm supposed to be getting out of that. But that's it. I mean, and you'll find a lot of churches like that are among non-denominations. And like I said, some of them can be read Matthew 5, 6 carefully. Yeah, I mean, it's not something that I'm unfamiliar with. I'm not going to go into scripture right now about it because we're not even close to the New Testament yet in the read through, and so it's more. I can get off topic about some things, but I try to keep most of the biblical passage reading to the to what we're talking about now, because the purpose of this is going from to read the Bible in order as it's arranged, how we read it now. But we definitely will be covering all of Matthew, um, definitely. So I will be I will be moving through the begats of Matthew very quickly, because like we did the other begats in the genealogies, it can get a little tedious just reading through it. You lose the audience. But I think all of it should be read with a modicum of carefulness, because you're trying to get a message out of it, right? Without creating your own message out of it. That's where when you want to talk about spirit, your faith being dangerous, it's less that your faith is dangerous, but what you try to make your faith into that's dangerous. If you try to take your own personal prejudices, bias, beliefs, ideology, all these things, and try to make Scripture say what you want it to say, then that's when you can get sideways, and you can do a lot of harm, not just to yourself but people around you, when you do that. So yeah, no, and I mean, that's a fair criticism. And I'll take the good with the bad on that. I like, and that's the difficulty when it comes to people, and why I try to tell people I'm not trying to get you to join my church. I'm not trying to get you to join my congregation, because I don't want to feel like I've got an angle there. That's not really the point of here. But um, you've got you've got the Orthodoxy and the Catholics, and as much as they dislike each other, um, and they have very simple, very very well established structures, a um, very hierarchical, and I think that it's a double edged sword either way you look at it. If you're looking at a large church body, so if we take the extreme of the spectrum, we take the extreme on one end, the Orthodoxy and the Catholic Church. You've got this huge bureaucracy, and I think that a lot of people get lost in that, and I think a lot of bad actors get lost, and it's easy for um, in those groups for you to kind of lose accountability for something, because they don't want to make the church as a whole look bad, and so they cover things up when the local community knows that something's bad's going on. Now, that said, the same exact thing can happen with no overarching leadership within a free churches, as you quote, which is I think is a free churches. I think is a good description. The free church, it's not accountable to anybody. So if there's abuse going on in there, it's on that congregation to do something about it. And what you see a lot of times with those, um, it's a microcosm of what we see with other things. Those churches will split, or form together. I'm going to be bringing a pastor on from a church whose dad was my preacher when I was growing up, and that church split. and then another church down the road that they were we're all kind of working together because we're all of a similar mindset. They had a split, and then they formed together, and now they are they're doing a lot of good now because I feel like they've taken some of what they learned with those lessons that they've learned, and they've come together and made some really good impact in Christianity in our community. And so that's a good thing. But again, it is a fair warning, and it is an abuse is rife within faith, because when you have faith, you have people. You were talking about one of the most, if not the most, intimate part of a person, that they are kind of opening up to you. And when somebody does that, that's a very serious thing to do. Um, more than finances, more than emotional vulnerability. We're talking about, if you believe that you have a soul, right? Then you're opening that up to be spiritually fed by this church, and you're kind of putting a lot of weight to what's being said in there. And if they abuse that, and they don't hold true to their principles, and that they don't hold true to the Bible's principles, then you can get some pretty bad results. Yes. Yeah. So, and that's what I'm saying, and that's what I'll try to tell people. We haven't really gotten into it. We haven't really gotten back to the discussion of churches. I haven't revisited that. I'm going to have a topic where I'm going to have a panel on from people like myself who have been involved in churches where we have been hurt by a church, and what that meant for us and how we got back over it. And some people have been through way worse than me, but at the same time, it's a reality, and we lose a lot of people that way. But right, like you said, let's get back. We can get back on topic. All right. So, as we were saying, the donkey's talking, and he's basically said, "Hey, I've been your donkey for all this time. I've never done this to you before. So, why didn't that make you suspicious in the first place? Why did you just go straight to beating me?" Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with his sword drawn. So he bowed down low and fell face down. The angel of the Lord asked him, "Why have you beaten your donkey these 3 times? I have come here to oppose you because your path is a reckless one before me. The donkey saw me and turned away from me these 3 times. If I had not turned away, I would certainly have killed you by now. But I would not have spared. But I would have spared it." The donkey's got faith, right? That makes you give hope for your pets. Some people say pets don't go to heaven. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Not really. Be nice if they did, but for the most part, we don't think so. Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, "I have sinned. I did not realize you were standing in the road to oppose me. Now, if you are displeased, I will go back." The angel of the Lord said to Balaam, "Go with the men, but speak only what I tell you." So Balaam went with Balak's officials. So maybe Balaam was taking a route he wasn't supposed to be taking. Maybe he wasn't walking with them, or maybe the angel of the Lord, who many people describe as being Christ, or who believe that when the angel of the Lord is mentioned in the Bible, is referencing it's Christ, right? Is there to basically say, "Hey, look, just letting you know what we're doing is serious. So do this, but only say what I'm telling you to say." Now, when Balak heard that Balaam was coming, he went out to meet him at the Moabite town on the Arnon border at the edge of his territory. Balak said to Balaam, "Did I not send you an urgent summons? Why didn't you come to me? Am I really not able to reward you?" Pretty, well, he's a king, right? Kings are used to getting their way. So when they don't get their way, they get a little irritated. They don't like to be asked. They don't like that. They're not in the habit of asking twice, especially when they start putting money on the table. "Well, I've come to you now," Balaam replied sarcastically. "But I can't say whatever I please. I must speak only what God puts in my mouth." Good point. Good move by Balaam. He's saying, "Look, I'm not just going to do whatever you tell me to do. I've got a higher power behind me, but I'm also being open to you about this. Because look, this this God, right? Our Lord God is with these Israelites. So you might want to listen to what he has to say, and that's what you hear from me is going to be what God is intending for you to hear. Then Balaam went with Balak to Kiriath Huzoth. Balak sacrificed cattle and sheep and gave some to Balaam with the officials who were with him. The next morning, Balak took Balaam up to Bamoth Baal. Not a good name. That's not a good name. And from there, he could see the outskirts of the Israelite camp, which is probably pretty impressive, especially when you've got the pillar of the Lord out there in the Balaam's first message. Balaam said, "Build me 7 altars here and prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams for me." Balak did as Balaam said. It's hard to differentiate between Balak and Balaam when I'm saying it. And the 2 of them offered a bull and a ram on each altar. So wait, we're making these sacrifices to God. Then Balaam said to Balak, "Stay here beside your offering while I go aside. Perhaps the Lord will come to meet with me. Whatever he reveals to me, I will tell you." Then he went off to a barren height. God met with him, and Balaam said, "I've prepared 7 altars, and on each altar I have offered a bull and a ram." 7, it's a good number. The Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth and said, "Go back to Balak and give him this word." There's more than just a word. So he went back to him and found him standing beside his offering with all of the Moabite officials. Then Balaam spoke his message. "Balak brought me from Aram, the king of Moab from the eastern mountains. Come," he said, "curse Jacob for me. Come, denounce Israel. How can I curse those whom God has not cursed? How can I denounce those whom the Lord has not denounced? From the rocky peaks I see them, from the heights I view them. I see a people who live apart and do not consider themselves one of the nations. Who can count the dust of Jacob, or number even a fourth of Israel? Let me die the death of the righteous, and may my final end be like theirs." Pretty much to the point. I don't know if this is in some sort of other language prose that's supposed to be like poetry or something, or if it's supposed to rhyme, because prophecy is supposed to rhyme, as we joke about. It's a Witcher reference and a Lego movie reference. Balak said to Balaam, "What have you done to me?" I think he just literally said he's not behind all this. "What have you done to me? I brought you to curse my enemies, but you have done nothing but bless them." He answered, "Must I not speak what the Lord puts in my mouth?" Very fair. Again, Balak's a king. He's not one. He's clearly not a holy guy. He's not on this, right? He's like, "What have you done to me? What are you doing here?" Balak literally just told you, no, God is saying this. And if God hasn't cursed them, I can't curse them. If he has not denounced them, I cannot denounce them. This power doesn't come that I have, the blessing and cursing, doesn't come from me. It comes from God. And then he basically says, can I say anything else? The reason you fear these Israelites is because God is with them. You're going to want me, this one person, to do something he doesn't want me to do? Hasn't worked out. So Balak doesn't know this, but it hasn't worked out for the Israelites who've come through, who've thought similar things. I'll just do what I want. Balaam's second message. Then Balak said to him, "Come with me to another place where you can see them. You will not see them all, but only the outskirts of the camp. And from there, curse them for me." Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll just change my mind. And God will just change his mind. So he took him to the field of Zophim on the top of Pisgah, and there he built 7 altars and offered a bull and a ram on each altar. It's becoming with a fair retinue of livestock. Balaam said to Balak, "Stay here beside your offering while I meet with him over there." The Lord met with Balaam and put a word in his mouth and said, "Go back to Balak and give him this word." So he went with him, found him standing beside his offering with the Moabite officials. Balak asked him, "What did the Lord say?" Okay, now he's starting to kind of figure this out. Or maybe he said it sarcastically. "Oh, yeah, what did your Lord say?" Then he spoke this message. "Arise, Balak, and listen. Hear me, son of Zippor. God is not human, that he should lie, not a human being, that he should change his mind. Does he speak and then not act? Does he promise and not fulfill? I have received a command to bless. he has blessed, and I cannot change it. No misfortune is seen in Jacob, no misery observed in Israel. The Lord their God is with them. The shout of the king is among them. God brought them out of Egypt, which he is keen and fond of telling the Israelites because they need reminding. God brought them out of Egypt. They have the strength of a wild ox. There is no divination against Jacob, no evil omens against Israel. It will now be said of Jacob and of Israel, see what God has done? The people rise like a lioness. They rouse themselves like a lion that does not rest till it devours its prey and drinks the blood of its victims. Which they're the note here. They're not supposed to actually do. So uh, this is metaphorical. So again, he's giving this prose of some sort too, but very clear, right? God's not human. I am a all powerful being, right? Omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, all these things, and I'm not going to change my mind. I'm not going to. They're going to continue to be blessed. This is the way it's going to be. What Balak probably should be asking is, what should I do then now? Because I can't. Then Balak said to Balaam, neither curse them at all nor bless them at all. That's no, stop, Balak. No, this isn't a negotiation, right? And haggle. And look, we know in the Middle East, been there, spent some time there. Haggling is part of that, but this isn't a negotiation. We're not haggling, right? Balaam answered, did I not tell you I must do whatever the Lord says? The Lord's not changing his mind. All sales are final. You have come to the climax of cursing and blessings here. Balaam's third message. Then Balak said to Balaam, come, let me take you to another place. What's the definition? Doing the same thing over and over. Perhaps it will please God to let you curse them for me there. And Balak took Balaam to the top of Peor, overlooking the wasteland. And Balaam said, build me 7 altars here and prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams for me. Balak did as Balaam had said, and offered a bull and a ram on each altar. At least they're getting fed pretty well. Everybody's eating. Now, when Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel, he did not resort to divination as at other times, but it turned his face toward the wilderness. When Balaam looked out and saw Israel encamped tribe by tribe, the Spirit of God came on him, and he spoke this message. Here we go. The prophecy of Balaam, son of Beor, the prophecy of one whose eyes see clearly, the prophecy of one who hears the word of God, who sees a vision from the Almighty, who falls prostrate and whose eyes are open. How beautiful are your tents, Jacob, out your dwelling places, Israel. Like valleys they spread out, like gardens beside a river, like aloes planted by the Lord, like cedars beside the waters. Water will flow from their buckets. Their seed will have abundant water. Their king will be greater than Agag. Their kingdom will be exalted. God brought them out of Egypt. They have the strength of a wild ox. They devour hostile nations and break their bones in pieces. With their arrows they pierce them. Like a lion, they crouch and lie down. Like a lioness, who dares rouse them? May those who bless you be blessed, and those who curse you be cursed. Got a couple of repeat references here. Strength of a wild ox. The lion is still mentioned here, and one of the things we've talked about before. Jesus comes from the line of David. David is from the tribe of Judah. Judah is described by Jacob as in his dying blessings to his sons, or dying prophecies to his sons. Judah's like a lion, right? So it's just interesting that we've seen that repeated here. Maybe it's time, maybe it's coincidence, whatever. But yeah, victory. Oh, he must do what the Lord says. Has he figured it out yet, though? I mean, look, these are primitive nations. So maybe they're not all that educated. I'm trying not to condescend, but I feel like this is common sense. But again, it's royalty. Royalty is used to getting its way. We see that. We see that with our politicians these days. You try to explain things to them. Well, why do the people feel this way? Well, they feel this way because you don't relate to them at all, right? Politicians of all stripes, they feel like they're different. They feel like they're set apart. Whatever they do, they're special and they get what they want. Maybe Balak's not all that different, or maybe they're not all that different from Balak. I'm not getting what I want. Maybe I'll just change the way I word things. Maybe I'll change the narrative. Maybe I could fool God. Maybe I could fool Balaam. Whether you fool Balaam or not, if you've tricked Balaam into cursing them, it's not actually going to do anything, but he doesn't know this. He does because he doesn't have faith. He doesn't believe. He's doing all this, building these altars because Balaam's telling him to. And he feels like maybe this will just placate Balaam into doing what he's saying. Apparently either Balak's very rich in livestock because he keeps burning up his rams and rams and cows, whatever, livestock, or this is very important to him, or both. Then Balak's anger burned against Balaam, because of course it did. He struck his hands together and said to him, I summoned you to curse my enemies, but you have blessed them these 3 times. Now leave at once and go home. I said I would reward you handsomely, but the Lord has kept you from being rewarded. Oh yeah, he's rewarded me by keeping me alive. Balaam answered Balak, did I not tell you the messengers you sent me? Even if Balak gave me all the silver and gold in his palace, I could not do anything of my own accord, good or bad, to go beyond the command of the Lord. And I must say only what the Lord says. Now I am going back to my people. But come, let me warn you of what this people will do to your people in the days to come. So, going to give you a little bit extra special because you didn't listen to me the first, second, third, or fourth times. Because we say fourth time because his message here is the fourth message, but the one that we didn't count was the one where he told him, he goes, you can't bribe me into using God's power because it's not mine to use. I'm just an instrument through which it's done. But now, instead of just asking, so what do I need to do? You are sending me away. So before you send me away, I'm going to leave you this little part, this little nugget. Balaam's fourth message. Then he spoke his message. The prophecy of Balaam, son of Beor, the prophecy of one whose eyes see clearly. The prophecy of one who hears the words of God, who has knowledge from the Most High, who sees a vision from the Almighty, who falls prostrate and whose eyes are open. I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star will come out of Jacob. A scepter will rise out of Israel. He will crush the foreheads of the Moab, the skulls of all the people of Sheth. Edom will be conquered. Seir, his enemy, will be conquered. But Israel will grow strong. A ruler will come out of Jacob and destroy the survivors of the city. Well, sorry about your luck, man. I don't think this is. I'm sure there are some people who think that he's talking about Christ. I don't think that's what he's referring to here, because unless, again, we're talking about kind of secular beliefs and equating them to Moab, Sheth, Edom, all that other stuff. I think this is more like, hey, this is what's going to happen to you soon. Then Balaam saw Amalek and spoke his message. Amalek was the first among the nations, but their end will be utter destruction. And then he saw the Kenites and spoke his message. Your dwelling place is secure, your nest is set in a rock. Yet you, Kenites, will be destroyed. And when Asher takes you captive. Balaam's seventh message. Then he spoke this message. So he must have a bunch of dignitaries or whatever, or ambassadors around him, because he's not just talking to Moab, he's talking to the other folks. Then he spoke this message. Alas, who can live when God does this? Ships will come from the shores of Cyprus. They will subdue Asher and Eber, but they too will come to ruin. Then Balaam got up and returned home, and Balak went his own way. Balak went his own way to his doom, right? Because, look, we know what's going to happen. All right, that takes us out, and that's probably a good place to stop anyway. So I'm glad we got to do Balaam's donkey. I think that's a good illustration of God trying to send us messages sometimes. It's God trying to prod us some way sometimes. Probably God trying to tell us that maybe we're not doing something we're supposed to be doing. And we don't always listen. We don't want to listen. We don't see, right? We don't, we are steadfast in doing what we want to do, how we want to do it. It's not always the way it needs to be done. What can that lead to? It can lead to certain death. Lead to certain death. God, God is infinite patience, and sometimes, but sometimes He's like, look, you've reached the end of your rope, your own rope, not mine. So, with that said, everybody, like I said, I'm probably not streaming. I'm probably not streaming tomorrow night. Kids got soccer practice, first ever. Happy for them. And then, but I don't. That'll probably run into my streaming time, and then we'll be putting the kids down. So um, we'll do that. So we'll plan on taking this up on Monday, and hopefully I can get the gentleman I've been reaching out to talk about the Old Testament and the importance behind it, importance behind our faith in the Old Testament, behind it, and let it go. Victory, thank you for being in the chat. I didn't really appreciate that's your first comment, but I think that you've it's been very constructive. I think you've had some thoughtful things to say. By the way, YouTube sometimes changes the lighting conditions of the screen you're showing. Look at your streams from time to time and adjust the lighting conditions so that you can read everything well. Yeah, well, part of that is I have two very large monitors. It's a 42-inch and a 46-inch screen that I'm staring at right now because I use this for work and I sit back a lot, so it just makes it easier. And I game from here too. I do all my work from here and all my relaxation from here. And I am still doing this on a budget, a very strict budget. And I'll answer your other question, your other thing in a moment. But and I'll get there in a second. So it's screwing with things, and I'm not very good at this. I'll probably at some point ask somebody when I get to the stuff to do. That's kind of why I lit the back end area too. It's a work in progress. I haven't even been doing this a year, and like I said, I'm doing it on budget. All right, so Victory, I have a question. Premarital love is forbidden for Christians, but do you think it's okay if I sit on my boyfriend's face from time to time? Well, here's the thing. And thank you for complimenting my stream. I did not wait for marriage. Most Christians that you meet didn't wait for marriage either. They say premarital love, when you think of sin and you think of things of being forbidden, it is not premarital relations is not condemning you to death. I mean, in a way it does. It earns you that, but again, grace and salvation through Christ passes that. And you can come across Catholics, some Catholics, I'm not going to say all Catholics, but some Catholics who think that through confession they can basically, that's interesting. You can cover this up with just going to confession, and you can do whatever you want just as long as you make it to confession. That's not exactly the spirit in which I think that the grace is bestowed upon us. I don't think it's. I mean, I think if you look at it with an open mind, or with a common sense mind and rationality and a mature sense awareness, that you can quickly say that no, you can't just continue to do the things thinking it's okay to do it just as long as you confess it. No. There's a difference between that and saying, hey, look, there's sin that I struggle with. There's sin that it's like addiction, right? We know now today, I think we're more aware of addiction more than anything else. But it's like addiction. And like I have my problems that I deal with. I get mad at people when I see that they're doing the wrong thing. Be overly judgmental at times. I try not to be, but again, gets better of me. I'm sarcastic and argumentative. I'm not always the best witness for Christ online because I can get snarky and sarcastic. Don't like doing it. I haven't really done all that much on this stream on this in this channel and everything. But if you catch me on Twitter, that's probably the spiciest part. And God is the right way for everybody, but you know, if you're engaging in acts, you understand that it's wrong, but if you're, it's one of those things where relations are difficult to control. So the point is I guess we get to the point is, are you going to build a future with this person? Because the older I get, and I don't know how old you are, Victory. The older I get, and having kids and seeing kind of the way we've seen the family unit get broken down, the more I appreciate why that is such a thing, right? Because body's your temple. Body is something in your, the way you express physical love it should be something that means something to somebody. Yeah, Twitter is toxic. It's insane. I wish I'd never joined it, but the only reason I do it is for the only reason I do it is to um, push the show, and now to talk about the Reds because now it's baseball season. Now I've gotten sucked into that. I hate Twitter. It's awful. 27 and from Germany. Oh, okay. Well, I live in a county called Hanover, which I know connections to Germany. There's Hanover, Germany. But one of the things I've learned about the family unit is that it is a very sacred thing. Raising kids in a positive environment sets them up for success in the best way possible. Doesn't guarantee that your kids are going to be well adjusted when they grow up. And if you don't have a good household, it doesn't guarantee that they're going to be just screwed up people and they're not going to ever, there's no way they can be good. But the best way to have a family is the way that is laid out in the Bible. The nuclear family is very much a biblical thing. And where we've seen it in the Bible where it hasn't worked is with Jacob, and he's got multiple wives. And look, we've got brothers selling other brothers into slavery after deciding that murder is not the right way. And that's not the only. We have Sarah and Hagar with Abraham. That's strife. That's strife that is like, if you believe things the way I believe, Ishmael goes off and creates the foundations for Islam, and Jacob, I'm sorry, and Isaac through him becomes the Jewish faith, and then ultimately the Christian faith from there too. And that's a lot of conflict right there. But those are instances where you see a lot of bad things come from polyamory, multiple wives, and that's not a good thing. But I guess my best advice for you, if you're not married yet, is I hope the relationship with you that you have is something that is fruitful, fulfilling, and permanent, and will become more permanent, and that you will get the wholesomeness that comes from a good marriage out of it. Because and one of the things I've been blessed with more than most, and when I was in my young 20s, I was very much resigned to the fact I was never going to see it because I had terrible luck with the ladies, and I thought it wasn't for me. And one of the things that I've been very much blessed with is a wife who is very much a contrast to me. Um, she challenges me in ways that I wouldn't challenge myself, and she has strengths that make up for my own weaknesses. And I think that it's a very good thing. I think that's one of the we've talked about. I had a stream on it before if you haven't seen it, but I talked to a friend of her, one of her best friends came on here and was talking about it. Femininity is a strength and a character all of its own, and it's something that men cannot emulate really. And it's not for men to emulate because it's not in it. Um, yeah, that's very true. But femininity, what women have to offer, is oftentimes not appreciated, to the point where I think that women feel like that they need to display more masculine qualities in order to be socially accepted. And I think that's a terrible thing. Um, well, I hope that you find one. I hope that you find one when the time is right and everything happens. But but I think I think it's a bad thing that our society has done is, and you can, if you want to use the word, I don't like toxic masculinity. I think that that masculinity has its own strength and own things about it. But you know, we have created this society where with the things that women do and do well, it's not always quant doesn't have the correct quantity to it. The things that the, the things that my wife does as a wife are incredible. Maybe she doesn't listen, she doesn't watch streams because she thinks that she just doesn't get anything out of them. So I'm not doing this for brownie points. She's not going to read. She's not going to hear this. But the things that she does um, as a wife are invaluable to me as a person, and the things that she does for my kids is invaluable because of what they do to them, and what being a mother means to them, and that is it's powerful. It's powerful, and like I said, it should be appreciated, should be revered, and um, we should understand and identify what that is as as worthy of great honor. And I think that because we haven't, that that we have seen this clash, this cultural clash between genders, between all sorts of different things. But thank you again, Victory. I hope you tune in some more. I'd love to hear more of what you. And so, if you reject the masculine, you unconsciously block many of the qualities that are attributed to the masculine. Yes, I think so. And like I said, God made man and woman, right? He made us in pairs, and part of the reason why he understood, um, Adam's loneliness is that he needed completeness, and that's why I think that that's what we should appreciate. That there is wholesomeness outside of what exists in a man, and that wholesomeness that's missing from man is in woman, and vice versa. Um, Things like there's strength that is physical, there's strength that is emotional, there's all, and it comes in different aspects. And again, we don't appreciate it all that well. Um, I think for either side right now, but it comes from, I think, denigrating or casting aside the support that women was Lilith. I've heard about that. I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that. So, but again, like I said, Victory, thank you for showing up. You've been you've had some constructive things to say. You've had some great questions, and you've added to the content of the show, which is what I want. I want content. I want people in the chat. So normally it's Big Newton in here. He's normally chatting, but I'd love to build a base of viewers who who add to this. It's not just this program is not just about me. It's not just about me talking. It's about me bringing on guests. It's about people who are watching, kind of coming on and giving their thoughts and feelings and impressions, and me responding to it, and the chat responding to itself, to each other. Good job, Victory. Have a good evening, everybody. Have a good weekend. Be safe out here tonight on St. Patty's Day, and and we will convene again on Monday. Blood God for the Emperor, for the Emperor. Anyways, everybody have a good evening. God bless and good night.